Dear viewers, this is part 2, and the final part of cops handcuffed black twins at a bar had no clue they were undercover FBI agents. In part 1, we watched as Grace and Chloe Miller, two brilliant FBI twin sisters, went undercover to expose a powerful money laundering ring. But what was supposed to be a simple surveillance mission turned into a nightmare when corrupt officers humiliated and handcuffed them in public, completely unaware that they were federal agents. The video went viral, the city erupted, and the sisters discovered something even darker. Someone had set them up and was watching their every move. Now, in this final part, we continue their emotional and suspenseful journey as they uncover a hidden network, using racial prejudice as a weapon and fight for justice, not just for themselves, but for every innocent person who's been silenced by the system. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, please click on the link in the description and pinned comment to watch it first, so you don't miss a single moment of this powerful story. And while you're here, don't forget to drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. We'd love to know. The photo lay on the table between them like a silent warning. Grace Miller stared at it without blinking. The image showed her and Chloe leaving the FBI field office earlier that day, their faces clear, circled in red marker. Underneath, in bold red ink, someone had written, "Stop digging," or "We'll finish what the police started." Chloe's voice broke the silence. "They're watching us." Grace looked up, her eyes calm but heavy. "They've been watching for a while. This just means they want us to know." Outside, the Houston night was quiet, too quiet. The faint hum of traffic from Main Street felt far away, almost unreal. Grace closed the blinds slowly, then turned off the lights. The glow from their laptops was the only thing lighting the room now. Chloe sat down, her fingers trembling slightly. "Grace, this isn't just intimidation. This is personal." They came close enough to take this picture. "That means they know where we live." Grace nodded. "Then we make it count. If they want to scare us, we give them a reason to be scared first." Chloe stared at her sister. "You're talking like this isn't dangerous." "It's already dangerous," Grace said softly. "We just didn't want to admit it." The sisters fell silent. Outside their window, headlights passed, reflecting off the blinds like camera flashes. Every sound felt louder: the ticking clock, the hum of the refrigerator, the faint buzz of a streetlight. Then Grace's phone buzzed. A text message from Agent Daniel Brown flashed on the screen. "And GT, stay alert. Internal Affairs found signs our system was hacked. Someone inside the department may be feeding Davis information." Chloe read over her shoulder. "So, there's a mole inside the FBI?" Grace clenched her jaw. "Looks like it." She stood up and grabbed her coat. "We're not waiting for them to find us. We're going to find them first." 30 minutes later, the twins parked near Memorial Park, under a flickering streetlight. Grace had chosen the location because it was quiet and open, no easy places to hide. Chloe kept glancing around. "Are you sure this is safe?" Grace gave a faint smile. "Safe stopped existing the moment that photo hit our floor." They waited, their car engine off. The air smelled like wet grass and rain. Then a woman stepped out of the shadows. She wore a baseball cap low over her face and carried a small folder under her arm. Grace reached for her concealed weapon, but the woman raised a hand calmly. "Relax," she said softly. "I'm on your side." She pulled off her cap. It was Jessica Moore, the journalist who had covered their viral arrest story. Chloe frowned. "What are you doing here?" Jessica looked around before speaking. "I'm not just a reporter. I'm with the U.S. Marshal Service Deep Cover. I've been investigating Mark Davis for 18 months. You're not the first people he's tried to silence. Grace exchanged a quick look with Chloe. You've got proof? Jessica opened the folder. Inside were photos, transaction records, and police reports. Everything you need. Davis has been paying insiders to feed him FBI intel and trigger false police calls on anyone who gets too close. Chloe flipped through the pages. These are burner phone logs, bank transfers, even names of officers on his payroll. Jessica nodded. Officer Cooper was one of them. Not a full recruit, but he's been used before. Davis's people send anonymous tips. They know the right words to make the police respond, fast and rough. Grace took a slow breath. So our arrest wasn't an accident. It was a plan. Exactly, Jessica said. You were getting too close to exposing his financial trail. He needed to blow your cover and humiliate you publicly. It worked until that video went viral. Grace folded her arms. Then why come to us now? Because I can't finish this alone, Jessica said firmly. He's got allies in law enforcement, politics, even media. But you too have something he doesn't public trust. People believe you now. That video changed everything. Chloe leaned forward. So what's your plan? Jessica handed Grace a flash drive. On here is the evidence linking Davis to more than 20 fake police reports across Texas. It includes payments to officers, hacked emails, and dark web messages. But if you open it on a normal system, it'll trigger an alert. You need a secure line. Grace pocketed the drive. We can run it from the FBI's cyber lab tomorrow morning. Jessica hesitated. Be careful. If Davis knows this evidence exists, he'll try to destroy it and anyone holding it. Grace gave a short nod. He'll try, but he won't succeed. When they got back to Pinewood Apartments, the night air felt colder. Chloe unlocked the door and stepped inside first. Everything looked normal, too normal. Then she froze. Grace, look! The living room window was open. Curtains fluttered in the wind. On the coffee table sat another envelope. This one was black, like the first. Grace picked it up slowly, her fingers tightening. Inside was a USB drive and a note. You think you're the hunters. You're not. Plug it in. Chloe's voice shook. It's a trap. Grace nodded. Yeah, but it might also be a message. She placed both flash drives, the one from Jessica and the one from the envelope, side by side on the table. Two identical devices. One from an ally, one from an enemy. Chloe looked at her sister. Which one do we trust? Grace stared at them, her eyes sharp and calm. Not yet. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance. Rain began to fall. Soft at first, then heavy against the glass. The city lights blurred through the water, glowing like warnings. Grace stood by the window, watching the rain. Chloe, she said quietly, whatever's on these drives, it's the reason they're willing to kill. Chloe joined her. So what now? Grace turned toward her, her expression steady. Now we find out who's really behind all this. Lightning flashed. The screen of Grace's laptop flickered on by itself. An email appeared with no sender, no subject, just one line of text. You're getting too close, Agent Miller. Grace's heart sank. Chloe whispered, they're inside our system. Grace shut the laptop fast. Then it's war. Outside, sirens wailed somewhere deep in the city. Inside, the twins stood together, side by side, knowing there was no turning back. Morning came slowly, gray and heavy over Houston. The rain hadn't stopped since midnight. Grace Miller sat at her small kitchen table, staring at the two flash drives on the wood. One came from Jessica Moore, the U.S. Marshal, who claimed to be helping them. The other had arrived in a black envelope with a threat. Chloe walked in quietly, still in her t-shirt and jeans. Her hair was tied back, eyes tired. "You didn't sleep, did you?" Grace shook her head. "Couldn't. Every time I close my eyes, I see that message." She turned the drives over with her fingers. They were identical, same silver case, same brand. "It's like they want us to make a mistake," Chloe sighed, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. "Then we don't. We treat both as traps until we're sure." Grace nodded, picking up her phone. She sent a text to Agent Daniel Brown, and GT needs secure room. 2 unknown drives. High risk. He replied within minutes. And GT room 7C. 30 minutes? By the time they reached the FBI Houston field office, the rain had slowed to a drizzle. The building looked ordinary on the outside, but inside it buzzed with quiet tension. Agents moved fast, whispering, typing, making calls. The entire department knew the twins were at the center of something big, something dangerous. Daniel met them at the security door. "You 2 look like you haven't slept in days." "We haven't," Grace said flatly. He led them down a long hallway to room 7C, a sealed lab used for sensitive cyber work. "Everything you say here stays between us," Daniel said. "What are we dealing with?" Grace placed both drives on the table. One came from Jessica Moore. The other was delivered to our apartment with a threat. Daniel frowned. "Moore? The reporter? Yes," Chloe said. "But she's also a U.S. Marshal. She's been investigating Davis for 18 months. Daniel's expression softened. "If she's telling the truth, she's one of the few people we can trust." Grace looked at him. "And if she's lying, then she's part of the setup. They started with Jessica's drive first. Daniel connected it to a secure offline system. The screen filled with folders, audio files, transaction logs, names. Thousands of them. "Look at this," Chloe whispered. "Bank transfers from Davis's company to fake security firms, payments to officers, even internal police emails." Daniel nodded slowly. "This is real. Whoever gave you this, they weren't bluffing." Grace scrolled down to a list of contact names. Officer Brian Cooper, Officer Kevin Hall, Captain Laura Wilson. Her voice trailed off. "Half of Houston's command staff is here." Daniel exhaled sharply. "This is bigger than we thought." Chloe pointed at another file. "Wait, this one says Project Shadowline." Grace clicked it open. A single document appeared, filled with coded phrases. Anonymous tips. Target neutralization. Racial triggers. "It's a blueprint for what happened to us." "They've been using prejudice as a weapon," Daniel said grimly. "Each false report sends the police into panic mode. That way, Davis stays untouchable while his enemies are humiliated." Grace's hands tightened into fists. "That's how they destroyed our case." She unplugged the drive and looked at Daniel. "Now let's see what's on the second one." The moment Daniel inserted the black envelope drive, the screen flashed. A black window opened with one line of text. "You've made your choice." Then the lights flickered. The system began to glitch. Files disappeared. The security alarms wailed. "Pull it!" Chloe shouted. Daniel yanked the cable out, but it was too late. The screens went dark. The emergency lights came on, bathing the room in red. "What happened?" Grace asked. Daniel stared at the dead monitors. "It wasn't a message. It was a virus." Chloe's voice shook. "They know we accessed it." An intercom crackled. "All systems down on level 7. Possible data breach." Grace turned to Daniel. "Can they trace the signal?" He nodded grimly. If the system was connected even for a second, they could know exactly where we are. The fire alarm began to ring. Daniel grabbed the flash drives and slipped them into an evidence bag. We have to move. They exited through a side stairwell, blending with agents evacuating the building. Outside, the rain had started again. Sirens wailed in the distance. "What now?" Chloe asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "We get to Moore," Grace said. "If her information's legit, she's the only one who can help us figure out what Davis is planning next." They got into their car and sped through downtown Houston, the wet roads shining under the streetlights. The radio buzzed with breaking news. FBI offices in Houston temporarily shut down after suspected cyber attack. No statement yet on whether it's connected to the viral arrest of 2 federal agents last week. Chloe turned down the volume. "They're turning this against us." Grace stared out the windshield. Let them. The truth will speak louder than their lies. They reached Jessica Moore's apartment on the edge of Memorial Park. Grace knocked twice, then again. No answer. The door was unlocked. They exchanged glances before stepping inside. The place was silent. Papers were scattered across the floor. The smell of burnt electronics filled the air. A shattered phone lay on the coffee table. "Jessica?" Chloe called out. No reply. Grace's eyes landed on the kitchen counter. A single piece of paper sat there. She picked it up. "If you're reading this, they found me first. Don't trust anyone in uniform. The proof is in the second drive. But to unlock it, you'll need the key hidden at Hale Tower." Chloe frowned. "What's Hale Tower?" Grace's stomach sank. "It's one of Davis's buildings, downtown." They looked at each other in silence. "She's gone," Chloe whispered. Grace folded the note carefully. "Then we finish what she started." Outside, thunder cracked again. A helicopter passed overhead, its light sweeping across the apartment windows. Chloe looked out the window. "Grace, we're running out of time." Grace tucked the note into her jacket. "Then we move fast." As they left the building, Grace's phone vibrated. Another message from the unknown sender appeared. "You're walking into a trap. Hale Tower isn't what you think it is." Grace stared at the screen for a long moment, then turned it off. "Let them set their trap," she said softly. "This time, we're ready for them." The rain poured harder as they drove into the night, 2 headlights cutting through the storm heading straight toward the lion's den. The night sky over downtown Houston was still bleeding with rain when Grace and Chloe pulled up near Hale Tower. The tall glass building loomed above the city like a giant mirror reflecting thunder and fear. Every instinct told them not to go in, but it was the only path left. Grace parked 2 blocks away. "Once we step in there, there's no going back." Chloe adjusted her jacket and nodded. "We lost everything already. What else can they take?" They walked through the puddle-streaked street, their reflections following like ghosts. Lightning flashed across the glass as they approached the revolving doors. Inside, the lobby was empty too empty. The silence made every sound echo. A soft voice spoke from behind the security desk. "You shouldn't have come." It was Mark Davis, the man who had caused it all. His expensive gray suit was dry despite the storm outside, his expression calm, almost welcoming. Grace froze. "You've been expecting us." "Of course," Davis said smoothly. "You've been very predictable." He stepped forward slowly. "You should have walked away. Agents Miller. You could have saved yourselves a lot of pain." Chloe glared. "You destroyed our case, you paid corrupt officers to humiliate us, and you think we'd just stop?" Davis smiled faintly. "I didn't destroy your case. I destroyed your illusion that the system you serve protects you." It protects people like me." Grace's jaw tightened. Not anymore. She reached into her pocket and pulled out Jessica's note. "You left something unfinished, Davis." "The truth." He chuckled. "You think you can expose me with a flash drive?" "Not one," Grace said, stepping closer. "Two." Davis's eyes flickered. "Just for a moment." "You didn't." "Oh, we did," Chloe cut in. "The first drive carried the proof. The second carried your virus. We connected them both through a trap system. Everything you've done, the payments, the fake tips, the officers you bought, it's already uploaded to federal servers." Davis's smile vanished. "You're bluffing." "Try me," Grace said calmly. He reached for the gun hidden under his jacket. "Then, I guess this ends now." Before he could lift it, the sound of boots echoed through the lobby. "Drop the weapon, Davis." A line of armed agents flooded in, led by Director Linda Harris and Agent Daniel Brown. Their guns were raised, voices firm. Davis froze, fury burning behind his eyes. "You think this means anything?" "I built this city." Grace took a step forward. "You built a system of fear. But tonight, it crumbles." Davis's voice cracked, the arrogance slipping away. "You don't understand. People higher than me, they'll never let this see daylight." "Then we'll shine the light brighter," Chloe said. Harris motioned to the agents. "Take him." Davis didn't resist. His confidence had drained away completely. As he was handcuffed and let out, his reflection disappeared into the storm. Hours later, dawn broke over Houston. The rain had stopped. Grace and Chloe sat in the conference room of the FBI field office, watching the news unfold live. Breaking news. FBI arrests billionaire Mark Davis for corruption, money laundering, and civil rights violations. Dozens of officers under investigation. Clips of Davis being led in handcuffs flashed across the screen. Behind him, the words "federal custody" scrolled in bold. Chloe exhaled softly. "It's over." Grace shook her head. "No, it's just the beginning." Director Harris walked in, holding 2 envelopes. "Ladies, I don't think I've ever been prouder of 2 agents in my career." Grace smiled faintly. "We almost didn't make it. But you did," Harris said, placing the envelopes on the table. "The Attorney General has approved full protection for you and your family. And the President himself called to commend your bravery." Chloe looked down at the envelope with trembling hands. "I never wanted fame. I just wanted justice." Harris nodded. "Sometimes justice starts with one act of courage." She paused, her voice softening. "Jessica Moore's body was found early this morning. She didn't make it out, but her evidence saved thousands." The room fell silent. Grace looked at the window, eyes wet but steady. "She died fighting for the truth. We'll make sure it wasn't in vain." By afternoon, the streets outside buzzed with reporters and crowds chanting for justice. Mike Turner, the bartender who had filmed the original arrest, stood in front of the courthouse, his phone live streaming. "3 weeks ago, I thought I was just recording a bad night at my bar," he said, emotion thick in his voice. "Now, it's history." These sisters Grace and Chloe, they changed everything. The viewer count climbed fast. 10, 0, 0, 0, 0, 50, 0, 0, 0, 100, 0, 0, 0. Inside the courthouse, Davis stood before the judge, head bowed. "Mr. Davis," the judge said sternly, "you used prejudice, power, and corruption to destroy lives. Today, justice speaks louder." She struck the gavel. 47 years in federal prison. No parole. The courtroom erupted in quiet gasps. Outside, the twins watched from the steps. The wind brushed their coats, the sunlight finally breaking through the clouds. Chloe turned to her sister. "It feels strange, doesn't it?" "Winning," Grace smiled faintly. "Justice always feels strange when you fought this long for it." They stood in silence for a moment. The crowd's cheers echoed down the street, cameras flashing, people crying. A little girl tugged at Chloe's sleeve. "Are you the FBI ladies from the news?" Chloe knelt with a gentle smile. "Yes, sweetie." "Why?" "My mama said you proved people like us can be heroes too." Chloe's eyes glistened. "Your mama's right." Grace watched the scene quietly. For the first time in weeks, the tension in her chest began to fade. That night, as the city lights glowed, Grace and Chloe returned to Pinewood Apartments. Their home was still messy from the chaos, but it felt peaceful now. Chloe set her phone down. "Messages keep coming in. People all over the country are thanking us." Grace smiled. Then it was worth it. She looked out the window, where the moon reflected on the wet streets below. For every person who was silenced, humiliated, or profiled, we spoke for them tonight. Chloe joined her, and we'll keep speaking. The sisters stood side by side, quiet and strong. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed softly, not in anger this time, but in peace. The city had changed. So had they. Dear viewers, Grace and Chloe's courage showed that even when the system fails, truth can still rise. They proved that power cannot silence justice forever. If you believe in their story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe and comment "Justice served" below to show your support for their bravery. Because this story isn't just fiction, it's a reminder that courage can still change the world. Read